Welcome back to Inside Southeastern Sports. I'm Jay Lindly, now joined by the head women's basketball coach, Coach Darin Grover. Next to last road trip of the season into Arkansas, and on the stay-away trip, you go 1-1. Win streak comes to a close. First, let's talk about the Ouachita game. Ouachita, a team that's down roster-wise, small. You guys struggled a little bit in the first half, took care of business in the second half.
Yeah, they've had some injuries. They also it's a brand new coach. I think he kind of decided, hey, we're going to take as it goes this year, and then I'm going to go after recruits for the next year, save those scholarships. But we struggled at the beginning of that game, and I mean everything from we fouled on a three-point shooter that the ball went in to just made some stupid plays early on, and then didn't finish shots early on. And then we went into halftime with a 9-point lead, and I told the kids, and I was upset at halftime with how we played, but I told them, look, in the end, I'm upset, but we still got a 9-point lead. And I felt like our kids came out of the locker room and played a whole lot better, and more importantly, hit shots.
Of course, end up winning that game by 20-plus points. When you get a win like that on the road, I mean, how long are you even able to enjoy it?
Well, on those games, whenever you have all of Thursday to think about it, it's a whole heck of a lot better to win that first one and be in a good mood the rest of the way. But I don't care if it's a home game or a road game, you can't enjoy any of it for very long. We always talk to them about enjoying it that night, but even as coaches, we can't even enjoy it that night because we got to start breaking down film. We had practice on Friday morning at 8 o'clock. So we finished our game 7:30 or 8. 12 hours later, we were going to practice. So we had to be ready, break down film, ready to go at 8 o'clock in the morning to start preparing for the next opponent.
When you have one of those trips and you practice that early, how do you spend the rest of your day?
We gave the kids the option. We could have practiced at 8 o'clock in the morning or 5:45 that night. They wanted to go at 8 o'clock. I would rather go at 8 o'clock because you get it out of the way. And we didn't have a whole lot that we did the rest of the day, but I mean, myself and our GA, Kaylee, went for a run in the afternoon. You just get to sit back and relax. I know some of our kids went with their parents. I know Cameron Cantwell went to Hot Springs with their dad, and they went out to eat. So we give them freedom to do whatever they want to do. It's just nice to have your work done early.
Of course, then you go and you take on Henderson State. Henderson State, a very good team, and have obviously had success against your squads out there in the past. Win streak comes to a close against Henderson State. What stood out in that game? Obviously, we'll talk in a moment about one of those career games that Katie Webb had, but what really stood out to you in that game as to why y'all came up on the short end of the stick?
Well, first off, I knew it was going to be a hard game to win. On the road, Henderson State runs dribble drive, which is difficult to defend, and they're a really good team. They've got twin sisters that have been good in this league for 4 years. A girl named Estes that is as about a 5'8", 5'9" guard, has over 800 rebounds. So we knew that they were going to be a tough team to play against. What stands out for us? Missed shots around the basket. We didn't shoot very well from three, but they were taking that away from us. So if you told me a team is going to take away your threes and you're going to get drives to the basket with Cameron and Katie Webb, I'd definitely take my chance and say, great, those kids are going to finish those shots. Well, we didn't finish enough of them. If we go hit a couple more of those buckets or one of the threes or don't turn it over one time, then we might go out of there with a win. But big thing that stands out to me is just missed shots. I think we shot 30% from the field. After we went back and analyzed film, we had 14 shots at the basket that we missed. 14 at the basket. Well, when you're getting to the basket that many times, you got to come up with a better percentage than that. So that was disappointing, I felt like.
Well, it's similar because you had the same type of issues in the Ouachita game. I mean, as a coach, that's got to be frustrating because there's really nothing you can pinpoint as to why you're missing at the rim.
No, because our offense was working. We were getting the shots that we wanted. You mentioned that I think that after the Henderson game, we had been kind of playing with fire a little bit. So we had some struggles against East Central, some struggles against Ouachita, but we were able to pull away and win those games. Well, Henderson, they made enough plays offensively that they beat us. And we defended well in that game. I mean, even going in at halftime, people might look at the score and say, well, they gave up 38 points. Well, there were a lot of possessions in that game. And when it all said and done, we really defended the dribble drive great. We just didn't finish shots around the basket, with the exception of Katie, and even she missed some. You mentioned the career night by her. I don't know what she did, 33, I think, something like that. It's a little bit like the men's game, or a lot like the men's game with Buckingham. He goes for a career night. Katie goes for the career night, but they just didn't have enough help, either one of them around them, to go get the wins. I'm sure Katie would have taken a 20-point night and a win over a 30-something and a loss.
Whenever you watch Katie Webb and her have a game like that, she had a similar performance against Southern Arkansas in the last couple of weeks. With this being her senior year, how much do you value getting to watch, let alone coach it, but getting to watch it?
Yeah, it's hard to sit back and appreciate that. I know right now I definitely need to sit the last 10 games, regular season games of the year. I've got to sit back and appreciate the fact that I've been fortunate enough to coach her for well, 5 years really now,
yeah.
And to see somebody doing what she's doing is special. One of the best players I've ever coached. In my opinion, one of the best players in Southeastern basketball history, which has a lot of really good players in it. And so it's fun to watch her. I mean, she plays such a unique style from a standpoint of her mid-range game, able to elevate over people. And that's something that's really dead in today's basketball. And she does it, and does it at a very, very high level. So, hey, trust me, I appreciate every second that we have her.
Again, talking with Coach Darin Grover. Coming up, we continue on the women's basketball trail. It's our player spotlight with senior Tracy Johnson. It's next on Inside Southeastern Sports. Welcome back to Inside Southeastern Sports. Now time for our women's basketball spotlight, joined by senior Tracy Johnson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing fine, doing fine. So this basketball season being your last, I mean, I don't know, I would assume there's all sorts of emotions going through you finishing up your college career. What's that been like?
I'm trying to just absorb every moment. Some days you want to just oh, it's over, but I can't say that because I don't have next year, so I got to absorb it. Coach Grover always says, don't take this for granted, because not everyone gets to do this, and a lot of people, when they leave, they're they regret saying every day, oh man, I'm so ready for it to be over. So I'm trying to absorb it and just know that it won't last long.
When, of course, you made the decision to come here for your institution, what do you feel about that decision? I mean, we see people all the time make it through junior college and then make that step. Do you think it's been beneficial for you to be in one spot for all 4 years of your college career?
My personal opinion, yes, because I grew up in a small town, and Darin's kind of a small town, and so the community, my community back home, so it was just perfect fit for me. I honestly just fell in love with the people here, and I'm not good at going outside my comfort zone to make friends, and immediately my freshman year I got some friends, and then I started stepping outside my comfort zone on talking more to people, and now it's a perfect for me.
When you look back last year, injuries and whatnot mounted up, you got a lot of playing time, a lot of starting time, and this year kind of a six-man role, if you will. How did last year's in-game experience benefit you this season for a slightly different role?
So as you said, I had to take a step back, and knowing that the six-man is one of the most important people, because the starters could be one of them not shooting well, whatever, and you six-man, you know what your role is. You know you got to come in, you know you got to score, you know you got to play defense, and it's not just me, KB, Neely Knoll, Jordan, all of us just come in. We can step up when we need. We play a huge part, but it's all to our starters, and then we just fill in the little roles.
Started out the year a little bit off from your typical shooting, and then here in recent weeks, you've just really been lighting it up. Mentally, is the goal bigger now?
I would say the goal is the same. But like you said, I did have a struggle the first semester, and I questioned every day why I wasn't going in, because I would put in hours a day, come in before practice, stay after practice, shoot, and I didn't know what was going on. And then finally now it's starting to roll, and it's feeling better. This goal's the same, but now the momentum's going, and it feels much better.
You're obviously very comfortable with your decision to come here and play all 4 years. You plan on going into athletics after this. Tell us a little bit about down the road where you see yourself career-wise.
So I will graduate in May with a major in recreation and a minor in coaching. But I plan to get my master's and be in sports administration, so I can be an athletic director. I would like to be an athletic director like somewhere in high school, closer to back home, smaller towns, where the community is like all small together, like Darin, my hometown. So that's what I kind of want to do.
Do you see you really sticking to the administrative side, or do you want to dabble in coaching as well?
I could see myself coaching. I don't want to teach in a classroom, and so I could, if I had to be a teacher, I would step up and do it, but that's not my number one choice, so I'd rather just stick to the administration side.
Again, talking with senior Tracy Johnson here on Inside Southeastern Sports. Coming up, we continue on. We talk men's college basketball. Head coach Kelly Green joins us next here on Inside Southeastern Sports. Welcome back to Inside Southeastern Sports. Time now to talk men's college basketball with Coach Kelly Green. Coach, the next to last road trip into Arkansas this past week and taking on a very good Ouachita team, at least, even though their record doesn't show it, they obviously came to play, and a very good Henderson State team. First, let's talk about the Ouachita game. Overtime effort, a game in which your team really persevered. Talk a little bit about that effort.
Well, I think the persevere word is a good word for it, because that's what we did do, and we were fortunate at the end, or the end to get us to the end, I should say. But started off okay and got down a little bit in the second half, and were able to kind of fight through and kind of stay the course, I guess you would say. And we're very fortunate to hit a shot off the glass from three-point range, just like we draw it up, just like everybody called it. And Adam Dworsky made a kind of a miraculous shot for us to get us into overtime. And once we got into overtime, and I believe they scored the first basket, and then we kind of settled down, got the ball inside, and really kind of controlled the overtime.
Well, and if you look at that in overtime, you guys go out, score the final 10 points in that overtime frame. It was 83-80. You finish off the last 2.5 minutes on a 10-0 run. Looking back at that game, it just seemed that once it finally fell back into your favor, your guys really bought in, started finishing at the rim, hitting free throws. It just all kind of worked together.
Well, that, and I believe, Jay, they had 15 threes with about 7 minutes to go in the game. And Ouachita's not a team statistically that's been making a lot of threes this year in each game. I think they're averaging maybe 7 a game, and they had 7 or 8 in the first half, and then whatever up to 15 is in the second half. So, and then from the rest of the way, we held them without a three, which was good on our part. And then we're able to get them, kind of one and done, so to speak. They shoot one shot, we get the rebound, and we were able to get back in control of the game, and then pretty much controlled the overtime.
Well, and of course, the hero in the moment was Adam Dworsky. Have you ever seen a guy brings so much to the table? It just seems like he always is doing little things and then major things like hitting that three-pointer.
Well, he is, and part of it's because he's unassuming. Physically he's unassuming. He's one of the smallest guys on the floor, and he's very quiet. You don't hear him much, and but he's he's got a big heart. He plays with a lot of passion. He plays with a lot of energy, and he just goes and goes and goes. And we're very happy and very fortunate to have him.
Of course, then on Saturday, the win streak came to a close against a very athletic Henderson State bunch, a bunch defensively, one of the top defensive teams, not just in the conference, but in the nation. You had Dworsky put up his typical numbers scoring-wise, and a career effort from Kevin Buckingham. It just wasn't enough on that Saturday. First, talk a little bit about Buckingham. It just seems that he has the ability to have 30-plus point games anytime he wants to.
Well, I don't know if it's anytime he wants, because I imagine Kevin would want to do it every night. But it's a shame that we got such a good performance from him on that night in a losing effort. But if you'll remember a couple of years ago, I think we said the same thing about Anton Cook whenever Anton went over there and had 46, and it wasn't quite enough. We needed 49.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin's 33 wasn't enough. We needed 36, 38. But he did have an exceptional individual game, and we needed some other guys to have better games than we had the other night. But that happens. Different people on our team have stepped up at different times, and and unfortunately, we didn't rise to the occasion when we needed to.
When you take a loss like that, having been on such a hot stretch, when do you talk to the team? I mean, when do you have your real sit down with the team? Do you do that immediately after the game, or did you wait, let it soak in, and talk about it on Monday at practice?
No, we kind of learned a long time ago, whatever you say after the game is probably not that great. And a lot of times it's not heard. Even if you're winning games, a lot of times it's not heard as much as it is after a few days. You get to go back and watch the film, and sometimes you think you may have played really poorly, and what I have learned is you're never playing quite as bad as you think you played, nor are you ever playing quite as good as you thought you played either. So I like to take a couple of days, and that's one great thing about Sundays. We get Sundays off after a weekend and or after a Thursday, Saturday game, so we kind of get away from basketball, and I usually try to get away from basketball on Sundays and not think so much about it, and then on Monday we'll come in and watch film, and we'll talk about some of the mistakes that we made.
Now, I'll get you out here on this. It has nothing to do with college basketball. I know you're an NFL guy. I know you're a New England Patriot fan. Are you going to be watching a Super Bowl that doesn't involve the New England Patriots?
Sure. It's Super Bowl Sunday, and
who's your rooting interest?
I don't know. Mahomes is amazing. He's amazing. He looks like some of the kids that I grew up with, just playing in the backyard, throwing sidearm, underhand, no-look passes. I wasn't one of those guys, but
Guys
some of the other guys, yes, other people that I saw throwing those passes. But he's amazing. I'd probably kind of like to see them win it. They haven't won it in 50 years, and I like Andy Reid. Anybody that's that big whenever he's 13 years old over all the other kids in punt, pass, and kick. I mean, he can't be all bad.
Good talking with Coach Kelly Green. Coach, thanks for taking the time,
My
as
pleasure.
always. Of course, coming up, we segue into our men's basketball player spotlight on the way with Bobby Johnson after this on Inside Southeastern Sports. Welcome back to Inside Southeastern Sports. Time now for our men's basketball spotlight as it shines on Bobby Johnson just up the road in Atoka, Oklahoma. Bobby, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fine. Now, you kind of had an interesting run in your career. Of course, was a standout at Atoka, made a couple of trips to the state basketball tournament. You get into college, and then little things start happening, injuries here and there. Talk a little bit about what it's taken for you to kind of fight through all of that and stay focused as a basketball player.
It's taken a lot. Just persevering through injury. There's times where you're just like, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. It's bothering me. And then you don't know if you're going to come back the same way you used to be. Just persevering through that and believing in yourself, having teammates behind your back every day, knowing you're putting in the work to get back to where you were, and just doing the things day to day to get you back to being on the court.
You've had a couple of oddball injuries. Kind of give the viewer just kind of a rundown, because I know ankle, wrist. You've had several little things.
My first year playing, injured my ankle at UTEP before the day before the game. Sat out about 6 to 8 weeks. Missed pretty much the whole first half of the season. Came back and played the second half, and then a year later, in a practice, came down and landed and broke my left wrist, and had to sit out an entire last year, and just now getting back this year.
For you this year, your senior campaign, really being a contributor, how special is that for you, having put in all that work and fighting through all that? How special has that been?
It's pretty special. It feels good because you kind of notice that hard work does pay off, and if you persevere through the hard things, I mean, it's good to see that things kind of fall into place for you, and it just feels good. So
you've had an interesting experience. The team got to go to Hawaii. You were the only guy that never hopped on a plane. What was that like for you? I mean, you're a guy that, for those that have never watched, and I remember watching you in high school. I mean, you can be a high flyer on the court, but obviously not at 30,000 feet. So what was that like for you?
First taking off, I kind of got the sweats. I was kind of sweating, nervous. So
did any of the guys razz you?
Miles did a little bit. He was sitting beside me. He was like, "You nervous? You nervous?" And I was like, "I'm good." I kind of hid it behind a smile. So it was a little rough, but once you get it through it for maybe like 5 minutes, you're like, okay, we'll be good.
Tell us a little bit. being so close, because a lot of the people we talk to aren't close to this university. You grew up 30 minutes away from this university. Your high school coach attended this university. What's it been like to play so close to home?
It's been pretty special, knowing my family can come watch me play, not having to be far away. If they need me in a situation or something happens, I can go back home and see them and just be there. They can be there for me and I can be there for them, and it just feels really good.
I know I mentioned your coach a moment ago, your former high school coach, Russ Harrison. I know you and he stay in contact. What type of influence has he been on you from high school through to college? I mean, because he's a guy that hasn't necessarily, you don't see him every day, but he certainly hasn't stopped giving you his words of wisdom time to time. So what's that been like? What have you taken from him?
Taking a lot from him. I was just coming into high school. I was just a hard-headed kid, and he kind of like taught me to stay disciplined. He kind of, kept me in check in a way, and make me realize that I'm not as big as I think I am in some situations, and just keep me, humble. And I learned to stay humble through him. So it's kind of a transition.
Would you say that I guess you could say that advice and keeping you disciplined and grounded? Do you think that without that, you would have had this opportunity to play college sports?
No, sir. I don't believe so. He just kind of, coming from where I'm from, it's just life is, I guess, a little bit different than how it is now. But he's taught me a lot. He was kind of like the second dad, because growing up.
Well, and just to kind of play this off, I mean, for a kid that's out there, I mean, what would you tell a kid that was like you, that has a coach like that? I mean, how would you express to them that, hey, you might want to listen to this guy?
I would say then your coach definitely knows what's best for you. You should always listen to your coach. Kind of just follow. If he's showing that he cares for you, you should listen, because I mean it's only going to do you good in life if you just listen to your elders and follow the rules that they give you. So.
Again, talking with Bobby Johnson, our men's basketball player spotlight, as that's going to wrap it up for this week inside Southeastern Sports. Be sure to follow along with Southeastern Athletics at GoSoutheastern.com. Till next week, I'm Jay Lindly.